Hey everybody, Perry just stopping in here at the top of what was originally supposed to be this week's episode, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, instead, what you are hearing is the first of two Isosessions that's going to be coming out this week. This one is one that was recorded with friend of the show, Alan Cornett, who runs the Eat Kentucky podcast, which if you have not listened to before, definitely go and check that out. And the second one is coming out this Friday, which is with Abby and Elena from Bourbon and Blondes. It was an episode that was supposed to come out a couple weeks ago, and unfortunately, due to my schedule, it didn't quite make it to air, but things have opened up a little bit, and I've been able to get a lot of help from a really good friend of the show, Colin Cox, who is one of the hosts of the Hop-Ons podcasts, which he and John have been on the show before. If you've not listened to that episode, it was, probably about 2 years ago at this point. And they've got an ISO session coming up here very soon as well. Anyway, the point is that Colin has taken on the editing of the ISO sessions. And I'm very thankful for him and all the work that he has done to continue this really cool and fun series that I have enjoyed recording a lot and having these conversations with these folks a whole lot. So I really appreciate Colin for checking in with me and for trying to make sure that everything was okay, and for continuing the ISO sessions. I do a little bit of plugs at the end of the show, but I'll do them again up top here. If you've not already followed this show, it is at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can leave us a 5-star rating and a review here on iTunes. If that is where you are listening, all you have to do is just scroll down in the main page, and you can just leave a review right there. It's super duper easy. And then you can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast for as little as $1 a month. And that's going to do it for the Isosessions intro, I guess. But next week, we will definitely be back with a full episode. We just have had a million different things going on over the past week. Swan's been moving, and I've been dealing with work stuff and trying to take care of the house before the baby comes. And there's a lot going on, man. There's a lot that's happening. So we'll be back. We'll be back very soon, but that doesn't mean that you don't have stuff to listen to. So in the meantime, enjoy this week's edition of the This Is My Bourbon Podcast ISO Sessions, and I'll see you back next week for the main episodes. Cheers, guys. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the This Is My Bourbon Podcast ISO Sessions. I am Perry, the host of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I am so excited to welcome in friend of the show, kind of behind the scenes. He's not had the chance yet to be on a main episode just yet, but hopefully once all of this kind of calms down and we can get together again, we'll actually make a full episode out of it. But please welcome to the show, Alan Cornett of the Eat Kentucky podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is kind of like an audition episode?
I guess so.
If I pass, then I can make it to the big leagues.
Really, you've got to really make your case. I mean, I hope that you didn't prepare Streetcar Named Desire for your monologue.
That's right. But well, yeah, my palms are already sweaty at this point.
Alan, welcome to the ISO Sessions. It's we've talked many times about having you on before, and this is the first time that we've really gotten to sit down. I mean, albeit virtually, and just chat in this space. So I'm really happy to have you on, even at a distance. But how are you dealing? How are you surviving and thriving, as I've been saying, during the isolation of COVID-19?
Pretty well. I mean, I get out of the house sometimes more than I want to, because my daughter is a grocery store employee and is an essential worker, and
Sure.
So I am her transportation most of the time. So I get out to drop her off and pick her up. So I get to actually see the streets. Sometimes people don't do that, and I try to get out of the house just for walks, and I've been doing lots of gardening. Been working on the yard. I've been creating flower beds. So my yard should come out of this looking better than it has in years by the time that this is over. So that's positive. I've been listening to lots of podcasts while I work out in the yard, and go on walks and so forth. So actually, this is good. I'm glad you're doing this series, because I usually listen to This Is My Bourbon podcast on the day it comes out, and then it's done. And and so I've got my little group of podcasts that I try to listen to every week.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
But I've just been kind of blowing through them, and so it's what I do when I go outside a lot of times, and just sort of my pockets talking to me with my phone in my pocket. So,
this is very much me trying to get caught up on everything that I've missed out on. I mean, I'm about to start an at-home, remote customer service job on Tuesday for the Kentucky government, actually trying to help people with the unemployment process online.
Oh, nice.
So I am going to spend many, many weeks getting caught up on the movies and the TV shows and the podcasts that I said I just haven't gotten to yet. So I'm either going to be really well cultured by the end of this, or I'm just going to be a pit of, references that nobody's going to understand.
That's right. Well, yeah. And in the evenings, my wife and I have been, we've been hitting the Netflix basics. We did the new season of Ozark, which we got caught up on that, and now we're trying to catch up with everybody on Tiger King right now. So everybody's already done that, and of course, our reaction every night is all these people are crazy. But
they're all insane. Nobody has.
Right. So
that's their head on right at all.
That's sort of an exercise in superiority. We can go, well, at least my life's not that screwed up.
And even still, we're all kind of like, we're all in the same boat of insanity, I think.
Right. My wife likes cats, so we have more cats in the house than I.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant for a second that you liked the movie Cats.
No. Well, no, I've actually not seen it. I do like T.S. Eliot, but
that's two very different things in this day and age.
Yeah. But we have house cats, and my wife and I also have 3 daughters, and they all love the cats. And so so I watched this and I go, well, this guy's actually got like 400 tigers, and we just got 4 house cats. So that's that's it doesn't make it seem quite as crazy. And nobody here has that we're aware of has killed anybody and fed them to wild animals. So.
All of a sudden, Uncle Louie's not coming to dinner anymore.
That's Sunday. Right. Where is he?
I'm just kind of an animal person in general. Like I can't qualify myself as a cat person or a dog person. I mean, I just want that kind of unmitigated affection that comes from having a pet, and one that you can snuggle. I mean, you can't snuggle up to a turtle that hangs out in a glass cage all day.
Yeah, they're not too cuddly. I don't.
Not necessarily. No. Snapping. Get a nice snapping turtle for bedtime snuggles. But I mean, I can sympathize with cat people, and I will say this about Tiger King. It did make me step back for a second and go, now, if I bought one tiger, would I go that crazy? Would I get that involved in the world of exotic animals?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. My wife and I were talking about it last night after we finished the most recent episode, the episode we're on. And I was just like, everybody who's attracted to this world is just completely insane. I mean, you don't have just like a normal accountant or something who happens to have a few tigers on the side or something like that. It's just all these people are, they're nuts. And
but the question is, were they obsessive before they bought their first big cat, or did the big cat begin their descent into madness
Yeah,
Like
maybe it's one of those
what is the in
chicken and
between
egg
there?
things.
Yeah, exactly.
I, I don't know. Well, it seems like they were probably all somewhat nuts
That's
before they got involved. But so you can judge people a little bit by I guess the animals they keep. I suppose. I
sure.
will say this, and I'm not a PETA person at all, but
Yeah.
it has made me think, boy, this idea of people actually owning these individually is really not a good idea, because you see how badly those animals are treated,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's really sad.
Are you familiar with the Zanesville Zoo massacre of
I,
2012?
I guess not. I feel like I should be. That's
So
not that long ago.
it really wasn't, but it was this wild story of a man in Ohio who he owned big cats and really exotic animals in general, privately, and he was a fairly well known person in the Zanesville, Ohio community, and was well respected and loved by everybody. Um, and he was in, I think he was in Vietnam, and he came back and just was dealing with all of the mental stressors that are PTSD. And part of it was he just kind of locked into that mindset of buying exotic animals, much like Joe Exotic or Carol Baskin,
Right.
or whatever. But the unfortunate part of it all was that he was also fairly severely depressed too. And so one night he decided to release all of his animals into the world. But he unfortunately committed suicide beforehand. So it's the really weird dark side. And I know that people are listening to these Isosessions trying to get a little bit of levity, but it's a really interesting story that's on the opposite side of the craziness that is Tiger King. But this guy went unregulated. He had no laws that were keeping him from owning big cats or exotic animals or anything. And then he committed suicide, but beforehand released all of the animals out into the community, and they went on a killing spree. They attacked residents of the community
because they're wild animals.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't know the difference between what is prey and what is not.
Is there a documentary or anything about it?
There is not. There are different like podcast episodes that have covered it.
Oh, okay.
Do Go On is one. I think Pod Save America might have done one. I have to go back and look. But there's a very extensive GQ article actually that goes into what happened and everything. I might actually link it below in the description for this bonus episode. But it is, for all the kind of, and it's in quotation marks, glitz and glamour that is Tiger King, or like the, the public side of it. There's like a seedy underbelly of it too.
Oh, sure. Well, because I think Tiger King, if Tiger King's not the seedy underbelly, you don't really want to see.
Well, okay, that is fair.
The actual seedy.
I mean, Jeff Lowe seems like a sleaze bag, so. Anyway, I know that people have been getting way knees deep into Tiger King recently, so we'll just let people enjoy that for what it's worth.
Absolutely,
but,
that's fine.
Alan, I'm curious. Considering that you are the host of the Eat Kentucky podcast, have you spent a lot more time cooking and crafting dishes during quarantine, during isolation?
What I have been doing is eating all the things that my daughter
just eating more in general. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, well, my middle daughter has loves baking projects, so she should be in school right now,
Mm-hmm.
but so she's home, so she's been baking things, and it's actually helped out my Eat Kentucky Instagram content because I've been taking photos of it and posting them. But so I have been gaining what some have called the COVID-19 while I've been while I've been home because
I feel that, man.
because
I feel that on a deep spiritual level. Let me
that's
tell
right.
you.
I've been hitting the carbs. So yesterday she made some. This actually isn't, of course, baking, but she made some banana pudding, which we had today, and I will attest is very, very good. So, and of course, right now she's working on some. She did some sourdough bread starter, so she's going to have sourdough bread coming out soon. And I feel a sense of fatherly duty, obligation to eat some of these things, so she doesn't feel bad about it. So,
but I mean, look, Alan, this is a safe space. Were you happy with consuming it?
well, I hate to. Oh, let's just say I feel an obligation to. Um,
Begrudging obligation.
and right as well, and then the second and third servings maybe aren't wise, but I will say, I have this I have Eat Kentucky, which I've had in one form or another for 5 years or so now,
Sure.
and but I am not a great cook. Now I do a little bit of baking. I have a few dishes that are sort of my go-tos that I will do, but I am, I guess, more of a follower of other people's cooking, which is better than mine. And which I will say, as somebody who bases a lot of what he does on restaurants and so forth, this has been a little bit tough because you can't get out.
Sure.
And so it's been a little bit limiting. So of course the podcast has also been a great outlet, and as you well know, this is a good time to do remote interviews.
It is indeed.
And so I've been hopping on Zencaster and doing interviews, and I've got one scheduled for tomorrow, and probably another one later this week that I've got to firm up that just sort of fell into my lap. And because people have free time, so if I hit people up, they're more likely to agree to do it. I typically don't have a difficult time getting people to agree to do an interview. It's tougher to get them scheduled to do the interview.
Yes.
That's the challenge.
Confirm that's how it goes.
Right, because people generally are very agreeable, but they also have things to do, and talking to me for an hour or whatever isn't necessarily the top of their fun agenda. But now they're trapped at home, so I can say, hey, let's talk. But I typically with my interviews, I prefer to do them in person. So I have a little mobile set up, and I will go to them, or we will meet somewhere convenient and do the interview, because I feel like I get a lot better rapport with them, because usually it's not somebody that I know. Sometimes it is. I might have at least be acquaintances with them, but a lot of times it's people that I just don't know, and
absolutely,
it's harder to develop that rapport when you're just staring at a microphone and a computer screen in front of you, and it's easy for them and for you to maybe get distracted, particularly them. I'm usually looking at my jotted down questions, but what I've tried to do is there were some people that I sort of had on my mental list who were not in Kentucky but had some sort of Kentucky angle. So I've been trying to kind of target those individuals. Target sounds a little aggressive, I guess, but focus on those individuals and try to work through some podcast interviews that would almost certainly be remote anyway. People.
Yeah.
So I've interviewed people someone in Denver, and someone in North Carolina, and someone in Mississippi. All of those people, we've talked about things involving Kentucky food, but they are people that it would be difficult for me to get to face anyway. So I've been trying to trying to focus on those. Although a couple of people, like the interview I have tomorrow, is somebody that I had hoped to sit down with, and we were supposed to get together, but then this happened,
Right.
and so I put it off for a little while because I thought, well, this is going to end, and I can still get together with him, but who knows when it's going to be, or when he's going to feel comfortable getting together with somebody.
Sure.
So we're just going to go ahead and set it up, or we have set it up, and he's also got a little bit of a time sensitive project going on that I'd like to get out. So it's, you try to take the situation and make lemonade out of the lemons. What can I?
Sure.
How can I do this? And so the interview that I'll tease this by saying it's got some a little bit of a bourbon angle on it.
Okay. Right.
That this was somebody that I just happened to interact with on Instagram, who I typically have not, and just sort of threw out, "Hey, love to have you on the podcast sometime." And she said, "Well, I've got plenty of time right now. Let me know." So,
I think I might know who it is now.
Okay.
So.
Well, possibly so. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll find out either way. I want to remain. I'll remain, surprised as much as everybody else does.
But perhaps there are going to be lots of podcasts with this person dropping before long. Who knows? I don't know.
That's really cool, though. That is really cool.
So I will say, and I mean, I know that I know that you've experienced this too. That there are people who will agree to talk to you that you might not expect would.
Yes.
And so, you ask, and I'm not saying that you don't sometimes get turned down. And typically I don't get turned down. Sometimes I get ignored, which I guess is a way of being turned down, but people typically don't tell me no.
Right.
And sometimes you do have to be persistent. I mean, there have been people who've agreed to do a podcast that I've had to kind of follow up with over a course of literally months. To finally get to do the interview. And when we get to do the interview, they're perfectly happy to do it. It's not that they were avoiding me, I don't think, but it just wasn't working, and that's fine. You just have to accept that that's what you're going to have to do. Some people, it's like, hey, let's do this, and you can sit down with them tomorrow,
Sure.
And they're ready to go. It's just how it fits into their lives and their schedule. I mean, it's for them, it's not their focus, and it's not something that's high on their agenda. And you just have to accept that. It's my project, and with you, this is your project, and you're the one who's concerned about it. And you can't get upset that it's not this other person's priority to do it. And
sure.
But typically people are very gracious about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that people are, at this point, trying to find a way to still promote what they're doing, something that they love and something that they've put a lot of passion into. And unfortunately, if people cannot go out and enjoy that product, enjoy the fruits of the labor, the second best thing is to talk about it and get people excited for it. So it makes sense that there are those folks who are, all of a sudden going, yeah, I might take a bite off of that, and I might try to, promote what I'm doing a little bit more. But at the same time, everybody still has stuff going on. I think that's something that we haven't really realized, that, people are they're still dealing, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And there's still, we all have these, I think, and I've joked about it before, but we all have these kind of little projects that we're trying to involve ourselves in, just to stay sane. So
right.
The balance between the two, it's kind of unprecedented during this time.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I mean, and everybody's, especially now, getting a little stir crazy, and and some people are more isolated than others. I mean, when I'm isolated, I'm in a house with 4 other people, and And so for me, I was like, maybe I'll go outside to the yard, work in the yard for a while. But there are people who really are by themselves, and that it would be, it's challenging to deal with that
For
because
sure.
there's really nobody for them to have contact with.
Yeah, and I think I might have said it every time that I've recorded one of these ISO sessions, but this was created out of the sense of I just want to check in with people and I want to make sure everybody's doing okay, and we're all craving some kind of human connection or some ability to just conversate with others, and it may not have been something that could have existed outside of COVID-19. So, if again, I'm looking for some kind of silver lining, in this case, it's allowing me to be creative and be creative in a space where I don't have an excuse not to.
Sure. It's I mean, you've just got to make yourself sit down and edit these out, which is something I've got to do. I've got a little bit of an editing backlog right now. I'm going to have to bear down on it. I've been interviewing faster than I've been editing, so the interviewing part's fun. The editing part's not always as exciting. But.
I haven't had that problem in a while, which is really interesting. Like when I first started the show, I was like, we've got to, record as much as possible, and we've got to get, these people on, and I've just got to really burn through, recording sessions. But like recently, I've just felt like I want to take the time with it, and I want to set up genuine, authentic moments with people. And like, that's something that I have totally, totally missed and lost during these times. I mean, I can't sit down with distillers and share a glass of what they have produced and then talk about it. I have to, there is this is what I think is really fascinating about the approaches that you and I take to creating media, to creating our content, right? I think that food is just as easily talked about as it is consumed, right?
I think so, yeah.
And like there is an essence of experience that comes with drinking somebody else's whiskey that cannot necessarily be conveyed just by talking about it, just because of the uniqueness behind it. I feel like I'm being a little condescending, and I apologize to that.
I'm not offended.
But like I really, really miss just getting to sit down face to face with somebody and pour a glass of, I just had some Nika from the barrel. Just sitting down and talking about that with somebody.
I've got a bottle of that hiding around here somewhere.
That's the other thing too. You and I are also both collectors.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a problem for me.
I mean, as much of a quote unquote foodie as you are still very much a bourbon collector, bourbon drinker.
Yeah, I mean, and food you can't collect, so that's probably good.
I mean, you could, but it would look
That'd
really
be a little
scary.
Weird. Yeah, that would be weird. Yeah, this is some chicken Alfredo that I got in 1997.
That's just a pile of fuzz. Shut up, okay?
let's crack that open. You can't do that. That's probably good, but it's hard not to suffer from bottle creep, I guess we'll say.
Sure.
I try not to be, and I guess good thing is I don't have the funds to be a big unicorn.
Right. Neither do
I. So I can't. Yeah. So I don't have bottles of Pappy's surrounding me, and here's my 20-year run of Pappy or whatever. But
right.
But it's nice to have a wide variety of things. And then I have been fortunate recently to be able to trade for some things that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to get. And usually I'm I'm able to trade, sort of bottle for bottle or a couple of bottles for another bottle, rather than I don't really, when I'm getting another bottle, I don't pull out cash
Sure.
if I can help it,
Yeah.
because I'm just, if I've got something they want and, they have something I want, like recently I did a Weller Foolproof for a William Heavenhill trade.
Oh, wow.
Which was, that was great for me, because the Foolproof I could get Weller had gotten and had an extra. But the William Heavenhill, literally, that's not something that I would, certainly at this point, feel comfortable with just going and dropping the cash for, because that's a lot of money. But Chad and Sarah were raving about it on This Is Bourbon Night, so I was influenced by their proclamation. So I thought, it'd be nice. It would be nice to try that. It'd be nice to have that, and it's good. And I've opened it. I mean, as soon as I got it, I opened it because I wanted to try it. So I've got more unopened bottles than I should, but most of those are unopened just because I haven't gotten around to it. Not that I'm. It's because I have too much.
Have you found yourself kind of reevaluating whether or not you should be holding on to bottles during this time? Because I really have. I have
what
been.
You mean holding on as in not opening them yet, kind of thing?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess I try not to prohibit myself from opening something that I really want to open. I'm pretty good about opening things. That's not to say
I am too. So,
I mean, but I've got some stuff sitting around that I've not opened. And I do sort of have that mindset of, well, that is kind of a special bottle, so maybe I'll wait a little while, and I should just open it. But there are plenty of open bottles to grab. So I will say I have recently thought, okay, I really need to settle on some things or explore some things that are just, I can walk into the store and get it and I'm happy with it. And because it's, you go through those stages of, I've got to have this thing that's hard to find, or that I have to show up at the store at a certain day to get. And I'm not saying I won't do that, but for example, talking about how easily influenced I am by bourbon media, that I went and got the Russell's Reserve 10 that you all recently reviewed, and it's really good. And it's lower proof than I had normally been used to and pursued, but it really is just nice to sort of sit back with, and I have never really clicked with Eagle Rare for whatever reason. I mean, I'm not saying I don't like it. It's just there are a lot of people who love it.
Oh yes.
I have not been one of those people. If it's that, and I've got a store pick that I need to open and try and see what I think about it. But I will say the Russell's Reserve 10, which to me is kind of an equivalent to Eagle Rare, as far 10 years, same proof. I like it better as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
I would rather have the Russell's Reserve 10. If given a choice between a pour of the two, that's the one I would choose at this point. But it is also something I can walk into a store anytime and get. And
for a really good price too.
It's cheaper. Yeah, $25 at Kroger or whatever. Whereas, Eagle Rare, Eagle Rare is not hard to find if you're wanting to get it, but you can't typically, if you decide on some random Tuesday, I want to go buy a bottle of Eagle Rare, you're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But Russell's Reserve 10, you can find anytime you want to.
I think
it'll be there.
We could very well be poised to see the Russell's 10-year being well regarded in the next couple of years. I think that as people are starting to, try to find the replacements for what were their daily drinkers, the special reserves, the Heaven Hill bottled and bonds, things like that. as they start to venture out into the world of cheaper yet high quality bourbons. I think that Russell's Reserve 10-year small batch is going to, I think it might make waves. And I know that's a strange prediction to have, but I think that it's an
So
unsung
what you're
hero at
saying
the
is
moment.
you're saying I need to go buy a bunch of bottles. Is that's what I clearly hear?
I'm saying go buy a case, Alan.
That's right.
and
5 years from now, you remember when it was just on the shelf all the
oh
time and
my
you could just walk
gosh.
in?
What the thought of like what is going to be the next bottle where we go, you remember when like that
Right.
I don't know what that's going to be just yet, and I wonder if we will ever get to the point. I don't think we will, but should that day come where we're like, can you remember when Jim Beam White Label 80 proof was on the
Right.
shelf for for $15 a bottle?
Turkey has on the whole seemed to do a very good job
Yes.
of keeping up with things. Of course, anytime you're dealing with a 10-year-old product, though, you can't just make more of it all of a sudden.
Right.
You
Exactly.
you have to wait 10 years. So it's something that there is a finite amount of it over there.
Well, sure, and I mean, with a
Anderson
small batch
County.
product too. I mean, you're waiting for barrels to taste like they should be introduced into this blend, or you're waiting for the right blend to come about. So there's no one moment that makes it perfect, right?
Right.
So I mean, there is no exact science. I mean, I love the notion that you can do as much work into producing a perfect barrel, into producing a perfect white dog, but once it goes into the barrel, you have totally lost control over how it's going to age. I think that's
Sure.
so beautiful, honestly, and that's one of the things that keeps me interested in drinking bourbon.
When you look at the variety of places that Wild Turkey even has, because they've got the whole Camp Nelson stuff.
Very
and,
true.
They're getting a much different. Well, I mean, as you can tell from the Russell's Reserve store picks, they're getting a different, at least something different over there,
Right.
and that's that's a feature, not a bug. That's something you want and people prize and people can seek out. But so I have been trying to think, okay, let's sort of find a little bit of a rotation of things that I will try to always have, that I can always get. And so right now, I think probably Wild Turkey 101's in that, the Russell's Reserve 10, and a recent discovery. I mean, I say discovery, I mean, people know about it. It's not like I found it or anything, but is the Early Times Bottled in Bond.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
I am a big fan of that. And I think it's really, I mean, just really, really good. And I think that people should jump on it, but don't make it hard to find. So Old Forester seems to have a pretty good job, or I guess in this instance, Brown Forman seems to do a good job of keeping things around, although they had trouble with the 1910, I guess, but that was unexpected issue. But that would, that's something to me that is good. McKenna I really like, but it's, and I've got some. It's not like I'm out, but you can't go find it either all the time, and it's gotten expensive. I mean, relatively expensive. You have to remember it's also 10 years. So,
True.
it's, I think it's one of those things that kind of like the Heaven Hill 6-year bottled in bond, was undervalued for a long time, and you get used to it. And of course, it's the hip thing to do online these days to bash McKenna bottled in bond, but all those people loved it before it won an award. So, I
still love that bourbon. I really, truly
do. Oh, sure. I mean, before Minnick said anything nice about it, everybody thought it was great. So, there's a
thanks, Fred.
There's a that's right. But I mean, sometimes I'll see on the various bourbon forums, is what do you think about X bourbon? Well, to hear tell from any of those forums, there is no good bourbon, because any bourbon you post, there are going to be 2 or 3 guys who are going to pop on and talk about, well, that's just a drain pour. It's awful. Why are you drinking that? It's just,
Right.
Stop,
right.
Just stop it. It's not true. And they get too cool for it. I don't know, but just, find what you like.
I feel about it the same way that I do fans of Star Wars movies. So nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans.
That's right. Well,
right?
Yeah, I have opinions about that.
But I mean, nobody hates popular bourbon more than bourbon consumers.
Right.
I mean, everybody is so quick to judge or quick to jump on the bandwagon of, yeah, it was never really that good anyway. Don't you remember when we had this XYZ, or
right?
These bottles ABC were so readily available or whatever. But was there ever a quote unquote heyday? Was there ever a period where people were universally impressed and pleased?
Yeah, we can paraphrasing Yoga Bear, maybe Yoga Bourbon. I don't know, but say that that bourbon is so popular nobody buys it anymore.
Exactly.
That's sort of, which is sort of the impression you get with Blanton's, for example. Blanton's is easy to hate on these days, and I like it. I mean,
absolutely.
I don't drink it as often as I used to, and I've got some around, and I don't chase it. But I like it, and it's it's good. It's not bad, and
absolutely.
And people acting like that it is. It's just ridiculous.
And as we are having this conversation, I'm looking into my cabinet and going, gosh, I haven't had any of that in a while. I haven't touched those bottles in a minute, but now I feel like I'm just gonna come out of this recording with an armful of different bottles, and I don't have a tasting partner at this point with my wife being pregnant, but
well, you need to record more of the bourbon in a box or whiskey in a box.
Yes, absolutely.
Episodes. I will say that one of the things that I have been doing recently is watching those. That's been one of my scroll through and see if Dixon has uploaded one, or or the guys down with the podcast, and those are fun to watch. And Dixon's always hilarious doing them.
He's great. I love he has a very wry sense of humor.
He does.
He's just very, very, very enjoyable to watch in those instances. But Alan, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. I really appreciate you hanging out with me for a little bit and checking in.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I look forward to, once things return to the relative normal after COVID-19 scare passes, being able to sit down with you and actually, maybe we could do some food and bourbon pairings.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. And I'll send people over to the Eat Kentucky podcast, which they can download wherever fine podcasts are available.
And you can also follow Alan at Eat Kentucky.
At Eat Kentucky on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
There you go.
Instagram's sort of where I live mostly,
right.
but Facebook to some degree. But anyway.
Yeah.
So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It was great getting to catch up with you for a little bit. If you want to follow the show, it is at My Bourbon Pod on all social media outlets. You can give us a 5-star rating and review on the iTunes app, and then you can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast for as little as $1 a month. And for as little as $5 a month, you can get bonus content from the podcast. So I think that does it for this ISO session. Thank you again, Alan, so much for sitting down with me, buddy.
Thanks a lot for having me. It was fun.
For sure. And we will see you on the next regular episode and on the next ISO session. But until then, I'm Perry, and this is My Bourbon Podcast, ISO Sessions.